Howdy all, welcome to Lex Lives. I think it's time we play a little 7 Days to Die. Alright, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this is the middle. Can we do a couple of these? I'm going to do that. Do you think that... do you think that this can go here and still allow the corn to grow? I'm not sure. I would like to get the power connected from this guy. I'm hoping it's a distance thing and not some other weird thing I don't understand. Oh yeah, see, now that's connected. Now, can I connect from you? That did not. Can I connect from you to there? Does that not work? Well, one of them's on. I have no idea how this stuff works, so why can't I... There we go. I'm connected. And then I want to connect it over here. What does that mean? You can't have a parent connection. I just had this connected. There we go. That's weird. It was very spiteful about connecting those. Alright. Nice. Alright. Now... Okay, can I make a switch? I want to see if I can put a switch in here now. Switch. Alright, I need mechanical parts for that. So yeah, so while we work on this, we had our D&D session last night, which was the end of the will we, won't we get our items. And let me tell you what, did not go the direction anyone would have expected. So we got our characters, right? And our DM constantly complains about how we're overpowered. Now we're not, but he constantly complains that we are. And so what I'm going to do is I want to put in a switch. Okay, and then I want to actually... Okay, now, the next thing I want to do is I want to connect this. I don't know if that connected or not. And then I want to connect this to it as well. Oh yeah, it looks like it did. Okay. So now the switch is on. We got light. We got light. Oh, look at that. Oh, but I think this one... I'm not sure. You're connected to the switch if you're still connected to the... How do I... How do I unconnect? Yeah, this one did not work. How do I... What? Not sure what that is. How do I disconnect this wire? Um, so anyways, we I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to disconnect that. I got one to work, but I don't know how to take this connector. Maybe I can do this. Okay, concentrate here. So he's always complaining about how overpowered we are, and I picked up an item that allowed me to increase my AC. It was a ring, my armor, by 1. And so I'd put it with my... see, strangely enough, now it's connected twice. So I had it with my thief, which gave her an AC. Yeah, this is not working well. I don't want to break it. Can I just pull it down? I think this will just break it down. I'm just going to break it down. And, okay, and then I'll go build a new one. So the, okay, oh, you can't see that wire, cool. I was like, I don't really like that wire hanging out there, but whatever. And I am missing a headlight and duct tape, alright. There's duct tape. I have so much stuff in my inventory. Headlights. Where are my headlights? Headlights. And so I was going around, and my cleric can only swing like 1 time for an attack, and so I've got and he doesn't really go up from that, and so I've got this hammer that you can use with 1 hand or 2 hands, and so in 1 hand you use a D8 to do damage, but in a 2 hand you use a D10. And so I thought, hey, you know what? I'll switch him from using a shield, which gave him 20 armor, to using the 2-handed hammer, which drops him down to 18 armor. And then my okay. It's a very convoluted way to try and hook this thing to this switch. Maybe I need 2 switches. I don't know. Okay. Alright, now there is a wire connecting from that to the other one, though. We got nothing. Oh, because I didn't turn the generator on. Duh. Okay, light and... You know what? I think a switch can only be connected to one thing at a time. I think that's what I'm seeing here. That's okay, I'll just make a second switch. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what I'm seeing. Alright, that's fine. That's fine. So anyways, so I'm like, I'll just do that, and then that way my cleric can do a little more damage with his one weapon attack. And and I'll transfer the ring from my rogue to my cleric, and then that way both my characters have got 19 AC. And so every time we go to a shop, there's never anything useful for us to buy at the shops. It's always trash or lower than what we already have. And so he comes to us and he's like, so if you want to send out for something, since none of these places have anything, you could go ahead and do that. And you won't know what you're going to get because they don't know what they can acquire when they do their shopping. And so basically what he did was, instead of allowing us to shop for items, he based it all on a roll. And so we could have gotten terrible items. Okay, now the other problem is this is going to be connected through here. So now I don't know how to get rid of this other wire. I need you to connect to the switch. Okay, it is obviously connected to the switch. And then I need you to connect to the switch. This is not an intuitive system. Wow. Okay. Okay. Would you believe that my switch now works? I tried 20 times to get this to work. You wouldn't connect to both of those at the same time for no reason. I built a new switch, and now you're like, oh no, yeah, we work fine that way. Ugh. I don't need you to connect to anything. I need you to come off the wall now. And so he has us give up all this money to him, and so we do that, and then he says, okay, so I will figure out what they're gonna have for you, and then it'll come in 7 days. I already talked about the whole 7-day thing. He extended it to 10 days. It took 10 days after he told us we 7. And so it did take a while to finally show up. But but shockingly, he allowed us to just wait it out. What am I missing? Oh, I didn't grab it because I didn't have enough room. That's what I'm missing. And so he rolls. 5 weeks later, he rolls for our stuff to see what we're gonna get. We waited 5 real life weeks for something he made us do. I hear ya. I don't see you though. There you are. Did you summon more zombies? Am I gonna have some house guests coming in here? So we, yep. What is up with the screamers always being in my house? You just wait, screamer. I'm getting there. I wanted to get the lights. Oh, I left everything on upstairs. Hold on, I gotta go upstairs and turn the lights off. And so, so he takes the money. He does his rolls 5 weeks after he told us that he was doing this. And so he sends us these messages, and he's like, "You guys are gonna like the weapons I'm designing for you." And I'm thinking, all I did was requested a two-handed hammer. Since my cleric switched to a two-handed hammer, there's a better version of it that does 2d6, two six-sided dice, instead of one 10-sided dice, because that's a possibility of 12 damage instead of 10 damage, and so I wanted to swap. That's all I wanted. And, you know, he's got to make a big deal about it. And complain that we do too much damage. This is important to the story. Complain that we do too much damage. So last night he finally gives us our new items, and they are... Oh, shoot. Yeah, I forgot what I was doing there. I need my rebar. Where did I leave it? Right there. I think it's also faster if you use a hammer, right? I should be using a hammer to do this with. And so, so he finally gives us our new items. And so, the sorcerer, he wanted, there's a thing called like a Pearl of Power that lets you store a low-level spell in it, and then you can use it again later instead of having to use a spell slot. So that's what he wanted. And so he gets this... now, he wanted a Pearl of Power, which is like level 2 spell, right? And so what's he get? He gets a... I forget what our DM called it, but it holds 6 levels of spells. So it's like super powerful. Super powerful. And then he gives his character an extra 3 key points, which is also super powerful because you get 1 per level, so that's like he's instantly 3 levels more powerful key-wise. And then I don't know. I feel like of all the things that were handed out, my rogue got a little gypped. She got a rapier that gives her advantage on initiative checks, which is the order you go in battle, and she can't be surprised. So I guess it kind of gave her the alert feat while she's has it, and so I mean I guess that's okay. It's not a feat I would personally choose. That's basically what we did. A sword with the alert feat on it. And oh, and it does some other thing that he thinks is spectacular. Uh, if you crit, the damage you do can't be healed. We've never had a bad guy really heal itself to the point where that meant anything. So he thinks it's amazing, but I don't see how it's even that useful. Because it only works if you crit, which is a roll of 20 on the dice. And it just stops them from being able to heal that amount of damage. It's not that they can't heal other damage, just not the amount you did to them. And so, in his mind, this is some amazing thing. But, I mean... So basically, I take away their maximum health. But they can still heal. They just can't heal. They have a lower maximum health, I guess. I don't know. Basically, I got a 1d8 rapier, which is better than the 1d4 dagger I was using. But I could have switched to that at any time. I was just using the dagger because it was magic, and I thought it was. I didn't use the dagger's magic. I just thought it was kind of a cool concept, and so he apparently decided I needed to switch to the rapier. So whatever, I'm using the rapier now, and then we come to the craziness, and this is the one that makes the least sense to me. He complains we do too much damage, and then he gives my cleric like a god tier weapon. It's insanely powerful. You get out of the way, grass. So a maul in D&D does 2d6 damage. That's what I wanted, a maul to do 2d6 damage instead of my warhammer, which did 1d10 damage. Because a warhammer is a smaller... Warhammer is like a hammer with a long handle on it. A maul is like a sledgehammer, right? And, ooh, I finally went up a level. And so, so just 2d6 damage like a regular maul. It's not +1, which makes it a magic hammer. I'm not sure if he just forgot that or what, but it's not +1. And so I'm like, whatever. But then he adds on this thing, and so there's a... It's kind of like a super overpowered ranger ability, where once per combat, I can declare a type of creature that I have declared war against, because my cleric is a war cleric, and so I often say for Tempest when I attack things, and so he likes the idea that I declare war on the bad guys when I attack. And so now during combat I can specify a type of creature as my enemy once per combat, and then I do an additional 2d6 damage to them, provided I hit. And it's getting to the point where it's very difficult for me to not hit. That's a lot of extra damage. And then I just wanted a regular maul because next level I actually get more damage on my attacks. And so I wasn't interested in something super powerful because I'm about to get an... That's weird. Why was that broken way up there? because I'm about to get the ability on my own. But now he's giving me this. I don't think he knows it, but he's giving me this 2d6 maul, which is what I wanted. Regular damage. Only now, I mean, it is per type, so it might not necessarily get all the creatures we're fighting, but often when we're fighting creatures under him, everything in the combat is the same type of creature. And so... so I wouldn't be too surprised if you know, it continues to go that way. And you know, like for example, we used it last night, and we got attacked by... Honestly, there was very little combat last night. It was mostly just talking. I don't remember us fighting anything, to be honest. I tried to knock a couple of guys out, but that was it. And, oop, that's the wrong spot there, buddy. Anyways, so I'm looking at this, and I'm like, okay, so in one level, provided they are the type I have declared for that combat, I will have gone from a 1d10 dice, and instead of going to the 2d6 dice I wanted, I will have gone from 1d10 to 4d6 plus 1d8, and if they're undead, I would do an additional... Oh, man. That was all me. So I go from a 1d10 to 4d6 plus... because it's 2d6 plus the additional 2d6 for them being the type I've declared. So that's 4d6. 1d8 is my new cleric ability that I get in one level. I don't have those. Oh, I do have them on me. Oh, but I'm out of the other ones. Weird. I need more rebar. Rebar frame. Just give me 10 more. And, so 4d6 plus 1d8, which is my new cleric ability, plus he gave me this medallion that he told me I could shift from weapon to weapon until I tried to shift it last night. And he's like, you can't do that, that's permanently affixed. And I'm like, no, that's not what you told me. He's like, well, I don't really remember what I told you, but I thought that was supposed to be permanently affixed. I'm like, why would I put it on a starter weapon rather than save it for something good then? Because it almost never comes in handy. Because we don't fight a lot of undead. And why would I have put it on a starter weapon if I wasn't going to be able to move it from thing to thing? That doesn't make any sense. I wouldn't do that. Alright, so now my pillars are all concrete. What is... wood spikes, right? Isn't that the thing you use? Wood spikes, lots and lots of wood spikes. I'm gonna need some more trees cut down here, it looks like. Oh man, they're so far away though. My guy's thirsty. So after a bit of arguing, because there has to be, because he retcons everything. And so whenever he explains something to you and then you make your decisions based on what he says, later he will go back and change it because he doesn't like it, and then, or he's just straight up forgotten what he said, and then you gotta be firm. You can't just, otherwise we'd never get anything done, because So anyways, that will do an additional 1d4 if the damage type is undead. So that's 4d6, 1d8, 1d4 for people who are doing too much damage with a 1d10. And honestly, at 14, we're at level 7 now, so at level 8 I get to add 1d8. At level 14, that becomes 2d8 extra. And he told me that this Warhammer actually increases its abilities. And so I'll have to figure out what those abilities are, he says. Because he wouldn't tell me. Because he does this... It's very irritating. D&D is a dice-based game, right? I mean, it's kind of like improv play, but you use dice to see if you succeed on what you're attempting to do. And so there's a thing in the game called dice checks, DCs, dice checks, and so some things have set dice checks, like if you're going to try to grab a hold of someone and they're going to try to stop you from grabbing a hold of them, then each of you roll the dice and they check against each other, right? That makes perfect sense. Some of the abilities and spells in the game have built-in dice check amounts. Some of the items have built-in dice check amounts. Some spells use your dice check amount, which is a special number that's derived from your stats. And so that's different for everybody, but it's determined by your stats. And so you know, that's a thing that gets calculated. But then there are the ones that the DM decides on his own, and those dice checks are the ones that irritate me, because in the book it tells you as a DM, when you are determining the dice checks for something, that goes kind of like this. 10 is something that you should probably be able to do. Want to jump across a small gap? That's probably a 10. Want to jump across the gap while carrying a person? Probably still a 10. Small gap, a small gap. You know, like 2 feet across. In fact, it's built into, you know, that it's going to bother me if I don't get that out of there. There's a thing called a concentration check that is has a built-in minimum of 10 as its dice check. And so our DM, on the other hand, thinks that every dice check has to be 20. And so if you don't get a 20, it doesn't happen. And so it's kind of like multiples of 5 is kind of the general suggestion. 10 for something that should be able to do, 15 for something that's a little more difficult, 20 for something that's very difficult, and 25 for something that should be almost impossible, and 30 for something that, you know, you shouldn't be able to succeed at. So kind of like that, right? That's the idea. If we don't get a 20, he doesn't do anything. And it drives me crazy. And so, like, did I not type in wood space S and then you told me there were nothing? I only got enough wood for... Wow. And so it's super irritating. And so you go to, like, he tells me roll a wisdom check to see if you can sense any more of the abilities in this item, and you're gonna experiment with it in combat to see what its other abilities are. Okay, so here's the thing. How am I supposed to experiment in combat? You want me to waste a turn instead of hitting somebody with the hammer, holding up in the air and saying thunder, thunder, thundercats ho? Is that what you're looking for? Like, how can I possibly? That's not how magic items work in the game. Once you're attuned to a magic item, you're supposed to understand how it works. Like, sure, you might have an item that goes up in power, but I don't know what he means by experiment with it in combat, because it has other abilities. You just don't know what they are yet. Not that it's going to get more powerful, just that I don't know what the abilities are. And so when I rolled a 17. That is better than a medium difficulty for anybody else. Oh, I don't have any more spikes. I'm like, why aren't the spikes showing up so I can see if I can place them here or not? And for anybody else, that would be a medium. Well, that would be a hard difficulty. 15 would be a hard difficulty, or a medium to hard difficulty, I guess. And you know, that's the good lock instead of the rusty lock. Would be a 15. A 10 would be the rusty lock if you're trying to pick it, and if it doesn't have a lock, then of course there's no dice check. But yeah, he looks at my 17. He's like, "Oh yeah, no, that's not high enough. That's not high enough for a weapon you're attuned to." But he does it with. He talked about the items he gave us. He's like, "Yeah, so I rolled, and I rolled to see how good the items were going to be that I gave you, and I rolled a 20, because he always rolls 20s. The little bit of combat we did have last night, every single attack against my characters was over 20 to hit, which is improbable, to say the least. But he attacked my characters 7 times, and all 7 hits were higher than 20. In fact, they were all higher than 21, because our sorcerer had cast a spell on me to give me 21 armor class, and so after he did that, every hit was higher than 21. I'm just like, every time the sorcerer's like, yeah, I'm pretty sure at this point he's just making up numbers to make sure they hit you. I'm like, yeah, that's what it feels like to me too. I'm glad I'm not the only one noticing that. Yeah, so that was our night last night. We got our new items. All right, I gotta do one more. I know this episode is going a little long here, but that's not unusual for me. I gotta do one more thing about last night. So this isn't him. This is the writers of this campaign that we're doing. So this is bizarre to me. So they're cults, and they're based off the 4 elements. Fine. That's perfectly reasonable campaign thing. We gotta take out the cults that are based off the 4 elements. Gotcha. I like it. It's a good focus point for this storyline. Focus on the elements. So one of the places we came across was based on Earth. And so we killed the first level, because he won't let us go to the second level. The first level of the Earth cult. He literally made something up to add to the game, which is fine, to stop us from proceeding deeper into the dungeons because he didn't want us to go there. And I'm like, okay, well, that's not in the book, but whatever. I can handle it as long as you can remember that that's what you did. And so far, he's actually remembered. I thought at one point he didn't remember, but he had sent the other guy a message saying that he had gotten the second key. So we now have 3 of the 4 keys. That lets us go to the second half of the dungeons. Although, for me, I don't understand that because these cults are clearly at war with one another due to some of the things that have happened in the game. And so it's weird to me that to get to the deeper temple, you need a key from each of the 4 cults. Like, to get into the fire cult temple, I need a key from the water cult, the earth cult, the air cult, and the fire cult. And the same thing for each of them, and that's bizarre. Anyways, so we clear out the first layer of the earth people. And so he's not ready for us to go to the water cult yet because he doesn't like that it's technically in the book at a lower level than us. And we've discussed with him many times that it's okay for us to face off against lower level creatures because we just get less XP. And but he wants to go through and ramp up the difficulty, and he hasn't taken the time to do that yet because he likes to do that right before we start playing, and so he realized it was going to take him longer, so he wouldn't let us go to the water cult last week, so we had to go to this, he wouldn't let us go this week either. We had to go to this ranch. So we go to the ranch, and we were told someone, and this is the part that is not by him, this is the part that's by the writer, someone is branding the sheep or cattle. I don't think, he kept saying cattle, but then he said it was on the sheep, and sheep and cattle are 2 different things, so I'm not sure if he's aware that cattle and sheep are 2 different animals. And so they're branding either way, the cattle or the sheep, with the mark of the fire cult, and they set on fire a nearby tomb of a barbarian tribe's ancient leader, which is pretty much on the farm. I'm like, well, that's a little weird that it's right on the farm. So we get there, and it turns out they've branded their own animals to lure us there. And I'm like, why would you brand your animals? I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. Well, first they're like, oh, it must be the fire cult, or the fire witch is what they were saying, but it was the symbol of the fire cult. And I'm like, who would brand animals with a brand and then return them to the owner with a different brand on them? How does that bother anybody? And then he's like, well, they're scared. I'm like, well, I'm dumbfounded because who is going to brand someone's animals with a different brand and then send them back for no reason? Well, they keep them in a pen, and then he confuses pen and pasture, so that was an interesting conversation. They keep the sheep in a pen, and even though they try to watch out for it, every morning more and more of the sheep have the fire cult brand on them. I'm like, but why? What's the point? They're not stealing them. They're not sacrificing them. They're not killing them. They're just branding them with the fire cult symbol. That's weird to me. And I'm like, it makes no sense. And I'm like, why didn't they like... No, there's just no point in putting your symbol on something if you're not going to do something. So why are they branding these sheep? And so it turns out that in the book, what has happened is 2 of the people on this farm are earth cultists. And they are angry that we killed one of the earth cult leaders when we were at the earth cult temple. And so it's a convoluted plan to get us killed by branding their own animals, and then they looted the nearby barbarian burial mound. And then while we were in there, they thought that the risen skeleton angry revenant, because someone looted the treasures from his burial mound, would kill us. And so after we find all that out, of course the two people who caused it are dead, and we managed to send the barbarians on their way. Because a bunch of barbarians just showed up out of nowhere, and they're like, "We demand blood," and we're like, "Yeah, only two of these guys knew about it, so you can have them." And like, "We want tribute now," and I'm like, "That's weird." "We want treasure." I'm like, "Well, nobody knows if there's treasure." And they're like, "We want supplies and sheep." I'm like, "Well, okay, you can have all the sheep that they branded with the fire cult symbol then." And so it's all over, and I'm like, why did they brand their own sheep with the fire cult symbol? I still don't understand how that's a thing. Like, that doesn't make any sense. We just come from the fire cult. They did a huge, complicated plan to try and turn the druids into fire cultists. This dude just branded his own animals with somebody else's symbol. That was his plan to lure us there. The sheep are branded by the fire cult. I don't know. Alright, well with that, I am going to call it a day. Just about got my defenses around the bottom there. Started playing with the electricity setup in this game. It's a little complicated to work with. It's not complicated. It's a little glitchy to work with. I don't like that you can't more specifically choose where the cables connect to. I also don't understand how that switch would not connect to both spotlights, and then when I was ready to tear it down, it connected to both spotlights. That was weird to me. So, yeah. But alright, with that, click like, subscribe, and catch the next one, and I will talk to you later.